You better get listing, girl, or you aren't going to be able to make these what sold videos because you're not going to sell anything. Hi guys, it's Misty and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Misty and I am a full-time reseller on eBay. I also own a brick and mortar antique store called Wildflower Antiques, and I also have weekly live vintage sales here on my YouTube channel. This video is my weekly what sold on eBay for the week of April 27th through May 3rd. Let me just go ahead and tell you that my sales were down. They were down by 31%. So it was not the best eBay week for me. But a lot of that reason is because I didn't list. I haven't listed in a while on eBay because I've been so preoccupied and busy with having my sales on YouTube and getting things prepped and ready for that the listing on eBay has kind of gone in the wayside. But I'm gonna start just getting myself in gear and focusing on getting some listings made. So let's go ahead and show you what did actually sell for me last week on eBay. We're going to go ahead and start in the Sellers Hub like we always do. You can see here my sales, they were down 31%. But honestly, like I said, I have not been listing. I haven't listed anything new. I've been, I do in some old listings and do sell similar, and I do edit them a little bit, but I have not really taken any pictures or created any new listings. I've just been extremely busy with my live sales, and I've just not really have been listing a whole lot. So I'm very thankful for making the sales that I have made because I myself have not been very active in my eBay store. I did manage to sell something every day. Now that hasn't been the case this week, but we shall see how things go. And yeah, I mean, it's been steady sales. The best sales day of the week, or when I sold the most things, was on Monday. All right, so let's go ahead and get into what 23 things sold for me. And the one thing is this Mattel Hot Wheels. This is it's a version of a 1933 Rolls Royce. I'm not sure what the date was. Oh, it was 1982. And again, on these Hot Wheels, on the bottom, they do give you a lot of the information that you need. It tells you the date, tells you what it is, and where it was made. Sometimes I know that collectors do care about where an item is made. It does, it does register the valuability, I guess, for a little bit. But this was a cute little, really pretty light blue collar. It sold for $8.73, and the buyer paid shipping. Next, I have a vintage Duncan butterfly red yo-yo. A lot of times I will get these in a box at an auction, and when I get these boxes, I do try to sell almost every single thing. Something like this is just something that is 3 pictures. It did have a honey nut cornflakes advertisement on one side. It was probably something that was given away in a cereal box, honey and nut cornflake cereal box in the 80s. And this sold for $10, and the buyer paid shipping. The next item is something that I had for quite a while. I got it at Goodwill last year, and this is something that does not have a very high sale through rate, so not something that I personally would pick up again. It was the Nerf Super Soaker water clip refill. It sold for $10.50, and the buyer paid shipping. Next item, this was something that I had found in a dresser. So I bought a dresser at an auction. It was filled with all different kinds of contents, and this was one thing. It's just a little catalog. It is from World War II, and it was called Hello Buddy. And it was a little, like a comic book about war facts and war service. And it says it was sold by ex-servicemen. And it was something that you would buy it, and you would just basically pay them a donation for it. Had really cool graphics on the inside. It was actually in very good condition, and this sold for $18.50. I did do free shipping. It did ship media mail. It was very small. I want to say it was only 4.5 by 5 inches. And again, I put all of just the general information that's needed. No rips or tears on it. I'm not going to bog down my listing with policies and this, that, and the other. Because a lot of the time, honestly, your buyers aren't going to read them. So they can get your policies and stuff from your store information if they want to, or just in the information on the listing itself, whether or not you do returns and whatnot. So I don't bog my listings down with all that kind of information. The next item is this vintage Yogi Bear and Huckleberry Hound silver-plated cereal spoons. This was made by Old Company Plate, was probably another just an advertisement piece, a promotional piece from, did I find the dates on these? Yeah, the 1960s. They were in pretty rough condition, honestly. They were pretty tarnished. I say this a lot. I don't shine up. I don't polish any silver pieces that I get. I sell it as is. Yes, you can get more money out of things if you do polish them, but you're taking a lot of your own time up, and to me, time is money, and so I just assume sell them as they are. Sometimes people don't want them polished up, so you can lose some potential customers if you do shine things up too much. So just keep that in mind. I know everybody does it their own way, and that's fine, but the way that I do it, I leave the items as is. But these sold for $16.50 for the pair, and the buyer paid shipping. Next, I have these vintage 1993 I'm going to say that wrong, Ashbury 4x6 green metal novelty aluminum street signs. I sold the both of them for $15.50. I paid 99 cents for them a piece at Goodwill. They're just like a little souvenir piece from San Francisco. That is one thing that I should have put in the listing title as I'm looking at that. Sometimes you go back and look at things, and even if you've sold on eBay for years, you still find things that you miss from time to time. But these sold for $15.50. The buyer paid shipping. They were very lightweight. They were not like your normal everyday actual street sign. They were very lightweight. Next is this vintage Arcadia, made by Arcadia, mini salt and pepper shakers. Has the graduation cap and the mortar board here, and the diploma. These were so cute. These were actually mine. I had bought them thinking that I might use them as a cake topper when my daughter graduated from high school, but I ended up doing something else. So I decided to go ahead and put them up on eBay. I knew my son, who will graduate next year, really could care less, and who knows what I'll do by then. But I sold them for $22.50, and the buyer paid shipping. No chips or cracks. The stoppers were missing in them, but very, very cute little pieces, and a good time of the year to sell them. Next is this Kappa men's blue polo shirt. Now, I am not sourcing clothing, so these are just clothing pieces that I have had that I've just kind of let ride out on eBay. This sold for $18.99, and the buyer paid shipping. This is a good size. So if you are selling clothing, the bigger sizes, they usually do pretty better, or a lot. They sell faster. Although I did have that for quite a while. The next item is this antique brass flour grain multi-use scoop, and I do put farmhouse a lot in my listing titles because a lot of people are buying these items to use in their farmhouse decor. And this sold for $22.50, and the buyer paid shipping. Next, I have a vintage charm bracelet. This is from Fort McClellan in the United States Army. This was a vintage piece, and actually one of the letters right here, I think one of the L's was missing. Let me see if I can, there we go. One of the L's was missing right there, but a really cute little charm bracelet. It had the clasp on it. It was in great condition, only it was missing that one little L. And this was also something that was in just a big box of jewelry that we just kind of pieced out. And it sold for $16.99, and the buyer paid shipping. Next, this is a vintage Marks Line Union Pacific caboose. This was bought by a subscriber of mine, Rebecca. Thank you so much, Rebecca. I did do a best offer. I want to say $15 or maybe $14 for this little caboose. It was a really cute little caboose, very, mid art Deco lines and stuff on it. Just a toy from I think from the 30s. And this sold for $16.75, and the buyer paid shipping. I want to see here. It was untested, as I do with all the trains that I list, because I don't test them. I don't know how to test them. It did have lots of dings and scratches on it, and on the canopy right here, it did have some denting. But you just try to take pictures of all angles And I did have some pictures of underneath too, because that is an important thing. People do want to see the wheels and the little connection thing right there, and obviously the logo. All right, still selling Smurfs. This little lot of Smurfs from the 80s was Smurfette and Diving Smurf. They sold for $18.45, and the buyer paid shipping. Next, a little piano baby. This, I believe, was also bought from a subscriber of mine. The pictures were very dark. These were not very good pictures. And in fact, after it sold, I thought, boy, I really should have this is a perfect example of what I mean. If you're looking through some of your listings and you're wanting to update them and make them look a little fresh. This is a perfect example of a video that I should have taken new pictures of with just a plain white background with lots of good lighting. And I still sold this, but I think I would have sold it faster had I had better pictures. But this was a little piano baby figurine. Did not have any markings on it at all, so I didn't know who made it. It was in excellent condition. Those are not chips. It's just where some of the gold paint is missing from it. But in the listing, I did put baby shower cake topper. I thought it would be cute as a cake topper for a baby shower. So sometimes, if you don't know the makers, is to use as many adjectives as you can to give people ideas if they're doing a search for baby shower cake toppers. This may pop up and they may see it and think, that would be a good idea. That's different than all of the other cake toppers that are listed. So, thinking outside of the box a little bit and, using some different kinds of adjectives in your descriptions do help. But again, I always put the measurements in things and, would make a lovely cake topper for a baby shower. $17.99, the buyer paid shipping. The next item is this vintage bronze or copper Boy Scouts BSA statue. It was made by A.C. Rayberger, Rhinecraft, Chicago. And this was not monogrammed. I think some of them, let me click on here, had like a nameplate on here because it was given out probably at some sort of a Boy Scout ceremony, or maybe if they received some sort of merit badge, they would get this. This is a vintage piece. The bottom was not Bakelite, it was plastic, and it did have a maker's mark, but it's really hard to tell. But this was a really cool piece. It's something that I had in the shop for quite a while that did not sell, and it did sell rather quickly on eBay for $21.50, and the buyer paid shipping. Next, we have an RH Company mortise lock set. Now, I've sold a couple of these, and I have a lot more to sell. So you may see these at the thrift store. You may see them if people get to go to yard sales or flea markets. And if you can get these, in a lot for a cheap price, buy them, because people do buy these. This one sold for $24.50. Now, this one is brass and cast iron. So this one is an older one. The faceplate right here was brass, and this part right here was cast iron. But these do sell. So it's a little hard to get some really good pictures of these because it's a mortise lock. It's just, it's not anything spectacular. There was not a lot of scrolling work on it. It was just a brass and cast iron mortise lock, but sold for $24.50, and the buyer paid shipping. Next, another little Squeak toy. I do love to buy these and sell these. This one, it was made by Santa Toy. I did pick this up at an antique mall. I think it was 50% off. So I want to say I paid maybe $6 for it. And it sold for $21.25, and the buyer paid shipping. This did have some places where the blue paint was a little chipped off, rubbed off. Yeah, and he had a little stain there on his ear. And this was one thing though too, had I put this on a white background, it would have blended in so much with the white background. So when you're taking photographs of something that's lighter colored, it's always good to have a set of the black cardboard pieces that you get from Dollar Tree. I have a white set and a black set. And yes, you do, every so often have to replace them because they do get smudged, but It's good to have that contrast so they can be seen. And you can see here, there is the maker's mark on it. So I love buying these things. They're just fun to me. And they do, some of them do take a little while to sell, but it's just something that I like to find and like to buy when I see them. And this one sold for $21.25 plus shipping. Next, we have a Eurographics Train 1,000 piece jigsaw puzzle. This was really cool. It was brand new sealed. I only buy puzzles that have never been opened, and it had this really cool Canadian Pacific vintage train on it, and it sold for $26.50, and the buyer paid shipping. These are great because they're easy to take pictures of and list and ship. Fantastic thing to buy. Not all puzzles will sell for a high amount of money, so always do comps on them, and they're easy. If they've got a barcode, you can scan the barcode in on your eBay app and it will tell you what the sold comps are. Next, I sold a pair of Crocs, men's Crocs. These are the iconic comfort shoes in black and white, very lightweight. They have these, you know, they're like reticulated where they have these holes in them. They sold for $20 and the buyer paid shipping. And these were in like new condition. I believe I paid $4.50 for these at Goodwill in the fall sometime, I think, when I was still purchasing those sorts of things. Okay, the next item is an antique deluxe paper label pure apple cider vinegar bottle. 16 ounces from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I do believe I tried selling this on one of my live sales for maybe $12, and I ended up selling it on eBay for $26.75. So that's telling you I do sell things, I will sell things to resellers, so I do mark things that you can, you know, buy things from me and resell them. These old paper label bottles are fantastic. They're getting harder and harder to find, and there are a lot of collectors that do collect these bottles. Even though the label itself had some missing pieces, it's still a really, really cool piece. And it sold for $26.75 and the buyer paid shipping. Next, we have a picture with a very bad glare. This is another example of thing that, Misty, you should have taken a different picture of this. But this is a vintage A. Gibson product. That's who made it. It's a 1925 Father Moto print. And I just put Art Deco Dad gift. I have the measurements in the listing itself, but it's just a print here, a lithograph print. Why are you not letting me click on your big picture? But you can see a Gibson product, and yeah, there's the date, 1925 down there. And it was in this beautiful frame with a little bit of filigree work on it. It was still had the original paper backing on it, and it sold for $26.99, and the buyer paid shipping. Next, we have a cutting board. I got this at Goodwill. I want to say I paid $1.99 for it, but I knew it had a couple things going for it. First, it was a cutting board, which I myself love these printed cutting boards with these fun graphics on it, and I loved that it had the boats on it. Typically you see these and they have something kitchen related on them because it's a cutting board, but I thought that this would be like a neat thing for if someone had a boat or a yacht or a sailboat or something to keep on the boat itself, and it had this biblical verse on it. Really, it was in really, really good condition. Obviously, this side was in the best condition because you're not supposed to use that side to cut. You need to use this side. But it did have the label on it and the date of 1959. Very easy to take pictures of, very easy to ship. It sold for $22.50 and the buyer paid shipping. The next, I have a belt buckle, and I want to say Dad got a lot of these belt buckles from a flea market. This one was a Cummins Power Pickup Trucker Diesel Engine. I don't know, it was from 1979. It was a vintage belt buckle. I want to say, let me see what the other side. It was made out of pewter, just 2 pictures. So very, very easy thing to list and ship. And this belt buckle sold for $32.50 and the buyer paid shipping. And the last item was this Virginia Cigarettes embossed tin tacker sign with this pinup girl on it. This was a vintage advertising piece from the 40s with this beautiful girl on here. Isn't she beautiful? She kind of looks like the girl that's on the cigarette bottle or box as well. It did have some issues with it. It did have some parts where it was scratched and a little bit of rust down here along the bottom. And let's see if I can get some more. I did end up taking it outside for a picture because I was just getting really good lighting outside. But I did, for my cover picture, I did put it on a white background. And this girl, let me see if I can show you the back side of her. Boop. Yep, there she is. You can see she's embossed, and it just means that it's kind of a three-dimensional or two-dimensional piece there. And I took a best offer, I think, of $120, but this I had listed and it sold for $120, and and the buyer paid shipping. This was something that it was very thin, but I wrapped it very well, and finding a box for this, because it was 13 3/8 by 21, it was a decent sized piece, but with this kind of a sale margin, it is worth the hassle to make sure that it is shipped in a nice package correctly and in one piece to its new owner. So 23 items. I mean, it wasn't a bad week. Don't get me wrong. I'm very, very blessed, and I feel very, very fortunate and thankful for the sales that I have gotten. But when your sales are down by 31%, it does kind of light that little fire underneath your rear end and say, you better get listing, girl, or you aren't going to be able to make these what sold videos because you're not going to sell anything. So I am going to try to get some stuff going. I need to come up with a new routine and a new schedule because I am here in my shop. So it's a little bit different for me because I used to completely resell with my eBay business at home. So now I've brought it all here. And it does limit my time a little bit more because when I was at home, I could, stay up until, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, taking pictures and getting drafts made for eBay, but I don't stay here that late. So that doesn't happen here. So I got to, have a new schedule. So I'm working on that. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about the numbers. My sales were $651.55. My sales were down 31%, and I sold 23 items. So I guess my little tip and my little word of advice will still always be, and it will forever be, just keep listing. List some things that, you're like looking, you're like, I need to get those listed. Because here's the thing, we've been under quarantine, we've not been able to go outsourcing, but the thrift stores are opening back up. So here very soon. So you're going to be able to go thrifting again. So get the rest of your death pile listed. It will take me 5 years to get my death pile listed because I have, over 50 years of a collection in my midst that I am, trying to resell. But, the sourcing is the fun part. But so I guess just kind of let's see if we can each list at least 3 things. We can do that. 3 things from our death piles that we've just been kind of putting off. Maybe it's something that you think it's not going to sell for that much, but still just get it listed because you've got money invested in it. Even if you just get your money back, just get it listed. And it does get that motion moving in your eBay store. So let's all say that we're going to list 3 things from our death piles. And I'm going to do that too. And I will update you on that for this next coming week on Instagram. So make sure that you do follow me on Instagram, Thrifter Junker Vintage Hunter. And I will pull and the three things that I'm going to list from my death pile and get them listed here on eBay very soon. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye. Make sure that you get those 3 things listed. Send me a message or, tag me on your post on Instagram and let me know. I'm excited to see your progress and I know that you can do it. And I will see you all in my next video.